Hey everyone, and welcome to the Ascend Collective podcast, Build, Acquire, Scale. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about something really important, which is reducing CAC beyond ads, CRO, follow-up, and scheduling. Now, we talk about advertising first, and advertising is a really great start, and that's where most people kind of finish this kind of process for reducing their customer acquisition costs. But it's really only part of the puzzle, okay? Because even if your ads are awesome, what happens after people click will certainly influence your customer acquisition costs. In fact, it can be even more costly. And this is where most people take it for granted. So it's also where we see the biggest losses in efficiency. So if you have a ton of people going to your ad and barely any people going through this stage and actually getting through to the end stage, you're spending a ton of money on traffic that doesn't go anywhere. So this is really important because if we can fix that, we can fix our efficiency. If we can fix our efficiency, we are going to win at a much higher level. And a lot of businesses never consider that. So we're going to break this into 3 core levers, which are your website CRO, your lead follow-up, and your scheduling. And all 3 will decrease your CAC if you get them right, without increasing traffic or ad spend. That sounds pretty cool. All right, let's dive into it. So CRO basically stands for conversion rate optimization. So how many people go to your website and how many people convert? So let's say your website brings in 1,000 people and you convert 2.25 of them, for example, you're going to have, 1,000 people, a 2.5% conversion ratio, okay? And that number matters a lot, okay? So with CRO, it is basically a point of getting someone to take a next action, which is buying a product, booking a call, submitting a lead form, starting a trial, whatever it is. That's what we're trying to get them to do with that conversion rate optimization. And this is basically behavioral economics. It's not about design. So design for a website is really important, right? We don't want a crappy looking website, but also it's the action that the client takes that is far more important than the actual website itself, okay? So the website gives someone clear instructions, it reduces friction, it increases trust, and it clarifies the next action. You're more than likely going to convert that client, okay? And it's a really high leverage growth lever because you can get more money from the same amount of traffic. Okay, so most people think they just need more leads, which means more traffic, which means more spend. If you increase your conversion rate, if you double it, you cut your CAC in half, you increase your return on ad spend instantly, and you unlock more ad scale, because as you spend more money, you know you're going to get incrementally more money. So very, very important. And the cool thing is that traffic, although it's very useful, is very expensive still. Conversions are controllable. They're totally within your control there. And you don't need to increase operational strain by increasing your conversions. You don't need to put out more money into ads. You don't need more staff to close calls. If you use your CRO to convert more people at that stage, you increase the size and revenue of the business without increasing the demand on the organization, and you increase EBITDA, which not just top line growth, you actually increase profit. So it's a win-win-win. So there's 5 drivers that will actually improve your CRO. Clarity beating being the first, clarity beating creativity being the first one. So within a few seconds, someone should know exactly when you go to the website, who it's for, what problems it solves, and what you need to do next, okay? Very, very simple. So it needs to have one clear headline, not clever, just clear, a primary call to action, and one main promise above the fold, okay? You want to make the next step obvious, okay? Because if the next step isn't obvious, people got multiple call to actions, or it's not a clear headline, they're not going to click on anything. They're not going to take any action, they're not going to win. Now, we need to match the message to the traffic source, because not all traffic arrives with the same intent. Facebook clicks are curiosity-driven, Google searches are intent-driven, email clicks are persuasion-driven. If the landing page doesn't continue the same story, the user is going to experience cognitive dissonance and drop off. So the fix is to get the same hook, same promise, same outcome. So if you have a meta ad that's promising lose 5 kilos in 28 weeks, and then the first headline says build muscle, people are not going to put 2 and 2 together. It's going to be confusing, it's mixed messaging, and people will basically drop off, which is not what you want. So you need to make sure that messaging is congruent the whole way through, otherwise you get a high level of drop off. And it's only small stuff. Now the next one is to reduce friction ruthlessly. So every extra step lowers conversions. Now there are circumstances where you would do this. Okay, so if you have a very high ticket product and you want to get people who haven't got high willingness to buy to not go all the way through, you put more friction in there to basically pre-qualify or disqualify people. So common friction killers, long forms, multiple call to actions, hidden pricing and low ticket offers, slow, low speeds, and poor mobile UX, so user experience. So every extra step makes it harder. Reduce those steps as much as you can in most circumstances. You also want to increase perceived value before asking for people to buy. Most people don't buy because of the wrong color on the button. They don't buy because they're unconvinced that you can solve the problem. So you need social proof, specific outcomes. Generally numbers are really, really good. Risk reversal, like guarantees and or trials, and process clarity. Here's what happens next. Trust will precede action. So if your audience trusts you, they will generally take more action. With that, okay, this is why I'm so big on putting social proof on social media all the time and actually having a value loop and having multiple bits of social proof of how good you are at your job always out there, because it will improve trust amongst your mid-funnel audience and people who trust you and have seen you do the stuff that you say you'll do. When they actually click on the offer, they're more likely to buy. Build trust over time. And optimize is the next step, not the sale, because a lot of websites, depending on your industry, aren't meant to close a deal. They can start a relationship and get the next micro commitment, which could be booking a call, watching a demo, starting a trial, getting a plan. So if we lower the commitment to them and not get someone to commit all in one go, we generally get a higher rate of conversion over time, which is really important. So a simple loop is really this: diagnose where people fall off, fix the basics before you do split testing, all that type of stuff. Test one variable and measure the business metrics like the conversion rate, not the vanity metrics and how pretty it looks. In the article that I've got on the website, it tells you exactly how to do this and all the formulas that you need to go through. Now, segment 2, why follow-up is a hidden CAC lever. Okay, so most businesses don't lose sales because their offer's bad, because follow-up sucks, okay? Who's ever, well, I can't really ask a question on podcast and I'm talking to the camera, but I'm sure you've probably called someone for a service provider or inquired from a website and they haven't gotten back to you quickly. It might have taken a week. And by the time they get back to you, you don't care anymore. You've probably found someone else because you've assumed they didn't care or they're too busy or whatever it is, and you've moved on. So in certain industries, the faster you get back, the more likely you are to close the sale. Let's just say it's cleaning, yard care, all that type of stuff. If you answer someone really quickly and you get out to do the quote quickly, you're probably going to win the sale regardless of price, because speed kills. Now, with follow-up, we need to be persistent with it because most leads don't convert immediately. They're busy, distracted, comparing options, Googling things, unsure about timing. They're waiting for confidence in the program. If you don't follow up, you're going to lose, okay? You lose it to inaction. It's your fault if you don't get the lead, because you need to follow up all the time. Now, it isn't checking in. Hey, just checking in, how are you going there, Susan? That doesn't work, okay? You follow up should basically ask a couple of questions, or answer some questions. Why should you care about starting now? What problem are you going to solve? What's the next easy step? Okay, so it's not just like, hi, Susan, just checking in. It's like, hey, is there anything you need more clarity on? Hey, we've actually got this thing that might be able to solve that problem for you. You need to be moving it forward all the time. Now, speed to lead is also really important, okay? But you also need to have structure to it. So people will just speed the lead, send someone a message, go, I did my job. That's not really the case, okay? You want immediate response, short-term persistence, and a long-term nurture. So we're going to go through how to do that, okay, in a second. We also want to do this in multiple channels. Email, SMS, calls, retargeting ads, all these things actually help. People don't miss the messages, okay? They probably just ignore it, and they need to see it enough times to be reminded to take action. People are always hesitant to take action, okay? So it's very, very important to do that. So when you are doing follow-up with people, you basically want to do the following. You don't want to quit after 3 to 5 attempts. Most people will probably quit after 1 to 2. You want to follow up daily for like a couple of times a day for the first 7 days on multiple channels. Email, text, SMS, voice notes, etc. And then after that, you put them into a follow-up system for the next 30 to 90 days, and then a different follow-up system for the next 6 to 12 months, because people may take a long time to buy. I had a student that took me 2 years to buy with me, and he's still with me today, like 7 years, maybe 5 years later, okay? And he's a really loyal student, really great, he's done really well, and he's a great referrer. He had to take a long time to build up trust. If I just said, screw you, and just gave up, he wouldn't be a student today. Now, scheduling is the last part and the most ignored customer acquisition cost lever. And most people just look at scheduling as like an admin task, when really it's a really important thing to do, because every delay, no-show, or back and forth increases the actual CAC that you're working with. So if someone schedules an appointment, a call, a trial, or whatever it is, it's a micro commitment, it's a buying signal, and it's a transition from interest to intent. Okay, so it's really important to get people to that point. And the longer it takes, the colder the lead gets, okay? Because as they have more time to think about it, guess what they do? They make up more excuses. They come up with more problems for why they can't actually do the thing or why they don't want it anymore. So if we are really high performing, we can get same day scheduling, same session booking, okay? Really, really quick. The faster we get someone in, the more motivated they are to buy, the better we look as service providers. Okay, so we also want to have fewer options in the book, fewer time slots, minimal fields to fill in, clear outcome, one booking path, make it simple, make it clear for people to come in. And we want to frame the call or the interaction around value. Not book a call, it's get a plan, personalized for you, walk through your numbers, identify the fastest path for you, basically give someone very clear instructions on what they're going to get from actually jumping on the phone with you or coming in to do a trial. Now, the next thing that most people miss is confirmations and reminders, and these are so simple to do. They can be automated entirely, and people don't do it because of laziness and or ignorance. I don't know which one is worse. We want to use instant confirmation, calendar invites, reminder sequences, and clear expectations. If we have that, we generally see a much higher percentage of people coming in. And we want to shorten that gap, because the longer gap, we have lower show rates, lower close rates, and reduced efficiency. So it's very important to get on top of this. The metrics we generally try and cover here are lead to book call, book to showed rate, time to schedule, and cost per showed call. Once we've got all those done, we can actually really improve that. So I'll give a tangible example. I worked with a facility that had generated 4,000 leads in the last X amount of months, and their actual time to get someone in for a consultation was like 8 to 9 days. And I was like, why don't you just get them in that day? Like, it's a simple trial process that they go through. And every client who comes in faster, or prospect, has a higher likelihood of converting to a lead. So reducing that time is a very, very powerful thing to actually getting more people to convert. If I ever get a lead opt in, a reach out to me, I try and get them on the call the same day. And the reason I do that is so I can convert them that day when motivation is at the highest. I'm not afraid if someone says, hey, Paul, here's the number to call, here's a lead. I'll just send them a text immediately and give them a call, because the speed to lead is so important to actually winning, okay? So most businesses are trying to fix their CAC by spending less. Let's not do that. Let's focus from this episode on how we can convert more efficiently. So when we look at our CRO, our follow-up, and our scheduling, what will happen is we'll improve that efficiency without actually cutting traffic and actually causing problems for our business, and it will help you scale without breaking things. So if this helped, subscribe, follow, share it, give us a 5-star review, or give it to someone who's still struggling and blaming with the algorithm, saying that advertising sucks and it doesn't work for them. That'd be great. I'll see you soon in the next episode.